Part 25. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 241. Chapter 241 Smashing the sedan chair again. Every time he saw the outstanding demeanor of the person in front of him, especially the eyes that were the same as his own, the Emperor was originally extremely happy. But when he heard the sentence "I will never marry for the rest of my life," the Emperor was angry and distressed. I endured it for a long time, but I couldn't help but scolded him. "Nonsense, you are so young and you are saying such depressing things. If your parents knew about it, they would be so sad." Ning Chui I looked respectful, but the Emperor didn't see the slightest clue on his face. He couldn't help but secretly praise him in his heart, but it was just like when he was young. Even when Mount Tai collapsed, his face remained unchanged. It was that stubborn posture that gave him a headache. "You're not young anymore, it's really time to start a family. It doesn't matter if you don't have a girl you like now, just pay more attention to her. It doesn't matter whether you are a good match or not, as long as you are a girl from an innocent family. If you fall in love with a girl from a certain family, I will help you get married." The Emperor stopped after a few words of earnest persuasion. He still had a lot of things to say in his heart, but he chose not to say more for fear that he would be impatient. In this world, this boy is the only one who can make him feel distressed and helpless. In the final analysis, it was he who owed him. Although Ning Chui lowered his eyebrows, he was not unaware of the Emperor's complicated and unspeakable gaze. Miss Ling's ability to find things and tell fortunes is quite good. It seems that she has learned some real skills from Master Xian Yi. I heard that she moved to Kintai Street by herself. It seems that she doesn't like the restraints of the world as much as her master. Over there on Kintai Street, you should pay more attention to her and don't let her make any mistakes. Your Majesty, don't worry, I have left 2 guards for Miss Ling. Ning Chui I had been listening quietly, and then replied briefly and concisely. The Emperor did not show any signs of it, but there was a flash of light in his eyes. "Although there are guards, you should be more careful and don't allow others to take advantage of you. If something happens to her, I can't explain it to Master Xian Yi. Miss Ling grew up with Master Xian Yi since she was a child, so she must have learned a lot of skills. If you encounter something that you can't solve in the future, you can ask her for fortune telling or a fortune telling, and you may gain something." "Yes." Although Ning Chui only replied with this word, the Emperor was still in a good mood. After hesitating for a while, the Emperor did not continue to test, lest it would be counterproductive. After Ning Chui left, the Emperor was still secretly thinking about the fact that this child usually focused on the Jinyi guardhouse, and the girls' families even stayed away when they saw him. It would be nice if I could have more contact with that Miss Ling. Even though Ling Mao lost his position as Minister of Household Affairs, he would not object if the boy really liked the girl. But when the opportunity is right, he has to meet the young disciple of Master Xian Yi. Ling Chu didn't know that the Emperor wanted to see her because of the second prince's words. "Because I caught the flower-picking thief at night, I got up late the next day. After breakfast, we were preparing to go to Zhao Qiagong's mansion. Unexpectedly, I suddenly heard a loud sound of gongs and drums. Listening to the movement, it seems that we should come over to Kintai Street. Although I was surprised, I didn't take it to heart. Unexpectedly, the woman guarding the door suddenly ran over in a hurry. 'Girl, a sedan chair is coming outside. It is said that it is from Zhao Qiavuo, coming to pick you up.' Ling Chu frowned, put down the teacup, stood up and walked out. Outside the door, parked was a half-new sedan. On both sides of the sedan chair stood 2 teams welcoming the bride, with drums and music playing, creating a festive atmosphere. A matchmaker with heavy makeup was about to lead people in, but was stopped by the woman guarding the door. Seeing Ling Chu come out, the matchmaker looked up and down, flicked the handkerchief in her hand, and said in a strange way, "Hey, this must be Miss Ling. You are impatient. I haven't even entered the house yet, but you can't wait to run out. It's just a big day, why don't you dress up? Forget it, since you are so anxious to enter the gate of Duke Zhao's mansion, I can't stop you. The matchmaker is not the one who came last time. She was talking to herself, ignoring Ling Chu, and waved directly to the maidservant who came to welcome the bride. Come, please get Miss Ling into the sedan chair. Ling Chu didn't say anything and just waved his hand. The shovel rushed forward. Just take a shot at the sedan chair. Boom. After the loud noise, the sedan chair was broken into pieces. Those maids and servants who were about to move were hit by scattered pieces of wood and gasped in pain. The matchmaker was so frightened that her legs went weak. Ling Chu said expressionlessly, "Get out." The shovel immediately rushed towards the matchmaker. The matchmaker was so frightened that she ran away. When the maids and women saw her running away, the shovel rushed towards them and fled in a hurry. In the blink of an eye, there was no one outside the gate. Only a piece of broken wood was left. Those who were watching were stunned. Ling Chu ignored the curious eyes and directly ordered the woman guarding the door to close the door. Going back to the bedroom, he took out the 2 usury notes, copied one copy with the help of the system, and asked the guard to quietly deliver it to the censor. Let Zhou Bankin go back home again. He also wrote a letter and asked his mother-in-law to deliver it to Cao Hongzin, the commander of the Zikan Army and Horses Division. After everything was arranged, Ling Chu took the IOU and went straight to the Duke of Zhao's mansion. Zhao Qiagong Mansion. The matchmaker went back dejectedly, adding fuel to the fire in front of Guo and telling her everything about Ling Chu's smashing of the sedan chair. Mr. Guo's face was extremely ugly. Zhao Jingming also had a gloomy face. Suddenly the boy guarding the door hurried over and said, "Madam, Prince, that Miss Ling is here." Ms. Guo was stunned for a moment, then said coldly, "Let her in." Soon the boy left and returned. When Ms. Guo saw Ling Chu, her eyes were full of contempt. "I sent a sedan chair to pick you up, but if you didn't come, you would come running to the door yourself. There are indeed no rules or regulations. Since you are here, kneel down and salute. Serve Ming'er well from now on. Although you are a concubine, you cannot disgrace our Duke of Zhao. Starting tomorrow, you should follow the upbringing mama and learn all the rules and etiquette. Our Zhao Qiagong mansion is not like your Ling mansion, who can let you be as arrogant as you like. Not even places like Taoist temples." Ling Chu was speechless as he listened to Ms. Zhao Qiavio talking to herself. She even smashed the sedan chair. Where did she get the confidence to think that she would be stupid enough to come to Zhao Jingming as a concubine so that she could train herself? Ling Chu did not show any courtesy, let alone kneel down. "Madam, I misunderstood. I am not here to be your son's concubine." Mr. Guo was furious. "Your mother has signed the concubinage document. Duke Zhao's mansion is not a place where you can come and leave as you please. Now that you have entered my Zhao family, you will be my son from now on, and you must abide by the rules of our family." Ling Chu was not angry, and said calmly, "I'm afraid that your Duke Zhao's palace won't be able to accept me as your concubine." Ms. Guo had a look of contempt on her face. "What can't you bear? You are not even qualified to carry my brother Ming's shoes." As soon as the words came out, a woman ran over in a panic and said, "Madam, the ancestral hall is flooded." "Madam, what's wrong is that the poultry that was just delivered from Zhuangzi are all dead." Thanks to 202209241508478111, Zigwa Momotaro, 123456256, 123456256 and other book friends for their monthly ticket support. Thank you 729. Swallows of Summer. DD, 1402121840214228, Jin Yingzi, 202301210127022243, The Wind of the Blue Planet, Cat and Mouse Don't Even Play, Chi Ziwan, China Fuse, Why We Grow Old. Happy reading. 202303061958333531, 20230601621658, asterisk silver star asterisk, XXC, 080829222220201007, Silent Blessings, Sihide and other book friends recommendation votes. Thanks to Hungzio and Xiaoxiang for supporting book friends. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 242. Chapter 242. Is it your fault? Guo was shocked. As soon as he stood up, several stewards, maids and servants rushed in outside the flower hall. Madam, I don't know what happened to the koi carps in the pond, but all of them suddenly jumped out. Madam, I don't know who smashed the porcelain in the warehouse. Madam, all the food in the big kitchen has been knocked to the ground. Madam, the lady was scalded by the tea. I want you to hire a doctor for her. Guo's eyes darkened and her body swayed. If the maid beside him hadn't helped him in time, he would have passed out long ago. Ms. Guo slowed down and looked at Ling Chu suspiciously. Somehow, she suddenly thought of what she said just now, saying that she was afraid that your Duke Zhao's mansion wouldn't be able to bear it. Before she came, everything was fine in their Zhaoqiuagong mansion. It happened that so many changes happened after she came. I originally heard that this was sent to a Taoist temple for foster care because he punished his relatives. Is this true? The maid next to the madam saw that Ms. Guo was stunned and couldn't help but urged, Madam, the madam is still waiting for the doctor. Ms. Guo came back to her senses and no longer thought about Ling Chu's affairs. She hurriedly sent for the imperial doctor to deal with the unexpected accidents. I don't know if it was because he was afraid that Ling Chu would defeat Zhao Jingming, but Guo also called him away. Everyone has left, and apart from Ling Chu, there is only one little maid in the flower hall. Ling Chu was not annoyed. She found a seat and sat down, and asked the little maid to serve her tea. After taking a few sips, she put the shovel and hammer back into the system. As soon as she entered Duke Zhao's mansion, she put invisibility charms on the shovel and hammer and let them play around. Those accidents just now were their masterpieces. Originally, she did not let them go to the ancestral hall. After all, the dead were the most important. It's just that Dejun made his own decision. When he saw the woman who took care of the ancestral hall talking nonsense to the little maid while belittling Ling Chu, he decided to scare her. The woman was preparing lamp oil when a shovel suddenly appeared and hit her in the face. In panic, she accidentally knocked over the lamp oil. The little maid who was with her was also frightened. In a hurry, she knocked over a nearby candle and happened to light the spilled lamp oil, which caused the fire. After scaring the mother-in-law and maids in the ancestral hall, the shovel swung around in a circle and shoveled all the koi carps in the pond onto the shore. The porcelain in the warehouse and the food in the big kitchen are smashed with small hammers. As for the Thai madam, the maidservant who served her knew that she was angry with Ling Chu because Ling Chu had exposed the affair of Duke Zhao's crown prince. Today I heard that she smashed the sedan chair again, and the maids were scolding her in order to please the wife. In a fit of rage, the little hammer smashed the leg of the maid who scolded the most. The maid was preparing to serve tea to the madam when she was caught off guard and was hit, and the teacup in her hand flew straight towards her. The tea was accidentally thrown into the dowager's arm. After Mr. Guo finished dealing with the accidents, he returned to the flower hall. Seeing Ling Chu still sitting there leisurely drinking tea, the anger in his heart kept rising. Come here, send Aunt Ling to the yard where her son died. Although she suspected that those accidents were caused by this bitch, Guo felt that she was just a lowly commoner, so she didn't believe that they could not be suppressed by the first-class duke's mansion. Mrs. Guo is not in a hurry to learn from Ling Chu now. Anyway, once she enters the door of her house, there will be many opportunities in the future, and she has countless means to keep her in submission. Ling Chu originally thought that Mrs. Guo would be somewhat jealous of her fate, but she didn't expect that she was mistaken. Seeing that those maids and women were about to attack, Ling Chu took out a small hammer and knocked them over without saying a word. Mrs. Duke, I am not here today to be a concubine for your family, but to collect the high usury money from my girl. Mr. Guo's face was cold. What usurious money? I don't know what you are talking about. Ling Chu took out the usury loan note from Zhou Bankin's family. Private usury is illegal. Under the emperor's feet, within the imperial city, the majestic Zhao Qiagong's wife dares to knowingly commit the crime. If this matter spreads, I wonder how the emperor will punish you, Zhao Qiagong's mansion. Ms. Guo glanced at the IOU with a look of contempt. The handwriting on this IOU was not written by me, and there is no my name on it. Do you think you can threaten me by just fabricating it? Ling Chu smiled playfully. Didn't the Duke's wife secretly lend loan money? But I heard that there are rumors in the public that your Zhao Qiaovu showed great kindness today. In order to help those in need, all the loan money lent was no more. Moreover, the principal and interest already collected will be returned. Could it be that I misheard this? Mrs. Guo sneered. Maybe this is mentally ill, that's more than 100,000 taels, she must be crazy to give up. At this moment, there was a sound of gongs and drums outside the gate of Zhao Qiaovu. The sound of the gongs and drums was so loud that Mrs. Guo frowned. Ling Chu smiled happily. Not long after, the sound of gongs and drums stopped. But the boy guarding the door suddenly rushed in, sweating profusely. Madam, it's not good. There are many people outside. They said they came to thank Madam for her bodhisattva heart. Ms. Guo stared at the boy in confusion. The boy was so anxious that he said, Madam, those people said that in order to help them, you have given up all the usury money you lent, and all the money you received previously will be returned. As soon as Guo's face changed, he subconsciously cursed, it's just a bunch of untouchables who dare to have such delusions. I will take back all the money. What are you still doing? Hurry up and take people to drive them away. The boy looked mournful and said, Madam, I can't help it. In order to thank you and the Duke, they are kneeling in front of the door and kowtow. And on the way here, they kept beating gongs and drums. There was too much noise, except for those who borrowed the seal. Money, there are many onlookers watching. Guo was furious and turned to glare at Ling Chu fiercely. Is it your fault? Ling Chu smiled and said, Why, didn't Madam just say that the Duke's government did not issue usury money privately? So you were fooling me? Instead of questioning me here, Madam, it would be better to think about how to deal with the aftermath. It is illegal to issue loan sharks privately. Mr. Guo wanted to strangle Ling Chu to death. The wife of the Duke of Zhao heard about what was going on outside and hurriedly asked the attendant nun to come and asked Mrs. Guo to handle it properly. The matter was too big, and Guo naturally couldn't ignore it. Outside the gate, there was a dense crowd of people, some who had borrowed usury, and some who had heard the news to watch the fun. Seeing Mrs. Guo coming in, everyone immediately gathered around and thanked the Duke and Madam for their kindness. Hearing those compliments, Guo felt a fire in her heart. But in front of so many people, I couldn't get angry and had to force myself to laugh. Act like a cute person. Asking for a vote. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 243. Chapter 243 My heart is bleeding. In order to maintain his image, Mr. Guo forced himself to put on a smile that was uglier than crying and said, If you have anything to say, let's talk about it in the house. As long as these people enter the house, it is not up to her to decide how things will be handled. She could have said that the lack of loan sharking was just a rumor spread by people with good intentions, and it was a misunderstanding. She has the IOU signed by those people in her hand, so they don't dare to have any objections. Even if these people who borrowed usury money want to make trouble, she only needs to reduce the interest rate by a tiny bit, and they should be satisfied. Ling Chu had guessed Guo's plan early on. She said nothing, but glanced at Zhou Bankin, who was mixed in the crowd. Zhou Bankin's mother immediately said in a loud voice, "Madam is kind-hearted, so we can't be ungrateful and not enter the house to disturb you. We are just waiting here. Madam can just ask someone to return the money we received earlier. There is still money at home. I'm waiting for the money to buy rice for cooking." "Yes, yes, we won't go in. I'm still waiting to get the money and take my dad to see a doctor." Hearing those words asking for money, Mr. Guo was filled with anger, but could not vent it. Outside the crowd, Cao Hongzin, the commander of the Zikan Army and Horses Division, was watching eagerly with his men on the pretext of preventing someone from causing trouble. Ms. Guo did not dare to get angry, so she could only smile and persuade her with kind words for a long time, but no one listened to her and entered the Duke of Zhao's house. Seeing that she kept refusing to give money, Cao Hongdeng in the crowd shouted, "The Duke's wife said that in order to help everyone, the money that was lent before will not be used, and the money that has been collected will be returned to everyone. Why haven't you asked anyone to take out the money after we've been waiting for so long? Could it be that you regretted it and don't want to return the money to us?" As soon as Cao Hongdeng said this, many people started asking questions. Mr. Guo felt angry in her throat, but she couldn't vent it in front of so many people. At this moment, Cao Hongzin looked at her in surprise. Did Duke Zhao's government secretly issue loan sharks? Mr. Guo's expression changed. It is illegal to issue loan sharks privately. If word spreads, the whole government may be implicated by her. Although it was the nanny around her who put the usury money, no one would believe that a nanny had the courage and ability to do such a thing. Anyone with a discerning eye would know at a glance that she was the instigator behind the scenes. Husband and wife are one body, and she is the Duke's wife. In the eyes of the emperor and the courtiers, her loan sharking is equivalent to what the Duke of Zhao did. She could not let the emperor give up the title of Duke Zhao. After weighing things up, Mrs. Guo said with a smile that was uglier than crying, "Misunderstanding, this is all a misunderstanding. Our government did not issue loan sharks privately. Zhao Qiagong's mansion is just experiencing poor growth, and some families can't even afford food and clothing. The sick people couldn't even afford the money for medicine. In order to help everyone, our Duke Zhao's government saved money and lent the money we saved to everyone." Guo wanted to cover up the truth, but Ling Chu would not let her do it. "So, you, the Duke of Zhao, are doing good deeds and accumulating virtue. But why did you charge such a high interest rate when you borrowed money? Could it be that you are actually doing good deeds in the name of doing good deeds, in the name of making money wantonly?" Ms. Guo wanted to tear her apart with her hands. "This is all a misunderstanding. The nanny next to me is old and confused and didn't handle the matter well. So, the money lent by the Duke's government still needs to be taken back. But how did I hear that your Duke's government understands everyone's difficulties and decides to do good things to the end, so it doesn't want any of the money it lent? And the money it received before, it will also be returned to everyone. Could it be that you actually loaned loan money privately from the beginning, and now that the matter has been exposed, you are afraid of being held accountable by the emperor, so you lied and claimed that the loan was to help everyone overcome the current difficulties? Could it be that after everyone left, your government said it was a misunderstanding and that the usury money lent would still be collected, and that the high interest rate should not be less?" As soon as Ling Chu said this, everyone rushed forward to ask Guo for an explanation. The wife of the Duke of Zhao was hiding in the door, angry and helpless. The crowd is too angry. If this matter cannot be handled properly, something will happen to Zhao Qiaovu. For the sake of her son, the wife had to stand up and said, "Everyone, please be quiet and listen to what I have to say. Our Duke Zhao's mansion did not release usury money privately. This is all a misunderstanding. Our Zhao family has ancestral precepts that future generations should do more good deeds and accumulate virtue. The money given by the Zhao family will not be returned, so everyone can rest assured." He turned around and ordered, "Manager Zhao, take out all the money in the house. All the money that Mother Zhao collected before will be returned." As soon as Mrs. Tai said this, those who had borrowed usury were all very happy. The wife took the opportunity and said, "Originally we wanted to help everyone, but we didn't expect that the grandma in the house was confused and did the wrong thing. I hope everyone can give me some face and don't blame her. Don't worry, everyone, I will ask the steward to check the IOU with you and burn it in front of you. You don't have to worry that our Zhao Kuagong mansion will ask you to pay back the money afterwards." With Mrs. Tai's promise, everyone was finally relieved and smiling. Mr. Guo looked at the burned EIS and the returned money, and her heart was bleeding. It was all her money that was burned. Ms. Guo glared at Ling Chu like a knife. It must be this bitch's fault. Let's see how she deals with her after those people leave. Noticing Guo's eyes, Ling Chu glanced at her casually and looked away, but suddenly turned back and stared at her Yintang. She remembered that when she first entered Zhao's house, Mrs. Guo's face was flushed. Not to mention that the Yintang turned black at this time, the black air was still tinged with blood. This look is a recipe for prison. Just when Ling Chu was curious about Guo's change in appearance, a man wearing a bun suddenly rushed out from the crowd. He cursed angrily at Mrs. Zhao Kuagong, "Any family that accumulates good deeds and does good deeds is all a lie. You are just making usury money. My third brother borrowed 50 taels from you, but you deceived him into being illiterate and tricked him into signing a usury note. I later found out that I owed you more than 1,000 taels because of the compound interest. My third brother came to you to argue, but he never saw anyone again after entering your Duke Zhao's mansion. You must have killed my third brother because you were afraid that he would expose your loan sharking. Nonsense, our Duke of Zhao doesn't know your third brother, let alone killed anyone. Could it be that you got greedy when you saw that we had forgiven everyone the money they borrowed, and wanted to take the opportunity to extort a sum of money?" Mrs. Guo's face was green and black. She never thought that the family of the man whom she had beaten to death last time would still come to her door half a year later. And he exposed it in public. "Bah, I'm not one of your kind people who appears kind but actually has a dark heart. You said you have never harmed my third brother, then do you dare to let us enter your Duke Zhao's mansion to search? Thanks to Dao Tao of monthly ticket support. Thanks to 20230208431051, Jam Kitten, Evening Primrose basking in the moon in Lucknow, Chen, neither cat nor mouse can play, Childlike Innocence, Taurus walking freely, Penyong Fang, Prose. BA, Falling Leaves No Autumn. Add, 201703181914308335, 202110221207411050, Yangliuan, Yangliuan. UN1, 20230521742110, Yingji 798, China Fuzii, 20230208431051, 854-729, CHLWCH, Kixi Yao, Why We Grow Old, Panax Noto Ginseng. DB, Ixixi, 20230219741685, 202303061958333531, 20230907495021, North Read Asterisk and other book friends recommendation vote. Thanks to Hungzio and Xiaoxiang for supporting book friends. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 244. As soon as the man finished speaking, many people started talking among themselves. Those who have borrowed money actually know that Zhao Qiagong's government originally issued usury money privately, but when things got serious and they were afraid of being punished by the emperor, they changed their minds and used their own money to help people in need. Although everyone praised the Duke of Zhao for their kindness, they did not really feel that they were kind in their hearts. The reason why they praise so much is just to avoid borrowing usury money. The man said that his third brother didn't know that the loan he borrowed from Zhao Qiaovu was usury, but he found out later and went to Zhao Qiaovu to argue. It is inevitable that everyone would like to comment on this matter. Mrs. Tai and Mr. Guo were furious when they saw that their reputation, which they had sacrificed so much money to restore, was about to be ruined by that man. But it cannot happen yet. In order to prove his innocence, Mrs. Guo had no choice but to nod. You don't believe me when I say I have never harmed your third brother. If I don't let you go into the house to look for me, you might think we have a guilty conscience. I can agree to let you go into the house to look for him, but if you don't find him, you must follow me to see the official. Although our Zhao Qiaovu is benevolent, we cannot let others frame us at will. Do you agree? The man patted his chest and said, Okay, if my third brother is not found, I will let your Duke Zhao handle it. Mrs. Guo nodded. Steward Zhao, take him in and let him take a good look to see if his third brother is in our house. Mrs. Guo sneered in her heart. She couldn't do anything to this man in front of outsiders. But as long as he entered the mansion, it would be easy. Although she could not kill him, it was easy for Zhao Qiaovu to take advantage of a pariah. Butler Zhao stepped forward quickly and wanted to pull the man in. However, the man said, Your Duke Zhao's mansion eats people without spitting out their bones. I have to bring people in, otherwise I'm afraid I will be like my third brother. Once I enter your Zhao Guo's mansion, I will never get out again. Mrs. Guo's face was gloomy. She didn't expect that the man would bring people in. If there is an outsider, she can't control him. But if she didn't agree to him bringing people in, the untouchables would definitely say that she had a guilty conscience. Mr. Guo was still hesitating, and many people were pointing fingers and talking. The wife glared at her secretly, and had to stand up and said to the man, You can bring people in to look for her, but we have women in Duke Zhao's mansion, so we can't let everyone in. Well, you pick 5 people to come in with you. But after entering the house, you are not allowed to wander around at will, so as not to bump into the female family members. I will ask the housekeeper to take you to search, do you agree? Those present thought that the man would think that bringing 5 people was too few, but to their surprise, he immediately nodded in agreement. After selecting 2 men and 2 women, the man suddenly walked up to Ling Chu and knelt down. He directly took out a banknote and handed it over. Ling Xiangwu, I know that your fortune-telling is effective. I am willing to pay you 30 taels. Please use your fortune-telling skills to help me find my third brother. Ling Chu glanced at the man in surprise. She didn't expect that the man would ask her for help. Ding. Requested task detected, please host complete it. As for the business that comes to her, the system has issued a task, so naturally she will not refuse. Ms. Guo had vaguely heard some rumors about Ling Chu and knew that she sometimes set up a stall in U Street to tell fortunes. Although she didn't think she had any real abilities, she actually agreed to help the man when they met, and said with a sullen face, You are from our Zhao Qiaovu, how can you turn your elbows outward? Ling Chu didn't wait for her to finish speaking, and interrupted with a sneer, The Duke's wife is wrong, I am not from your Zhao Qiaovu. Today, like everyone else, I took an IOU to recover what was previously collected by your Zhao Qiaovu money. Glancing at Mrs. Guo, Ling Chu deliberately shook the IOU in his hand. Other people's ears were burned, but the one in Ling Chu's hand was still there. Mrs. Tai didn't want to cause more trouble, and she didn't believe that Ling Chu was capable of anything. Although she was dissatisfied, she still let her into the house. Manager Zhao led the people into the house. Mrs. Guo secretly winked at him and motioned for him to lead the people to search in the front yard. But the man ignored it and directly asked Ling Chu to tell his fortune. Since he agreed to the man, Ling Chu took out the copper coins and made a fortune from the turtle shell. Ms. Guo stared at her with a dark face, but because several other people were also present, she could only hold back her anger. Ling Chu secretly opened the system. There is nothing unusual about the front yard. There was nothing found after entering the courtyard for the second and third times. But Ling Chu discovered from the system that there was yin qi in a remote corner. Ling Xiang, have you found anything? Seeing that she quickly put away the copper coins and turtle shells, the man couldn't wait to ask. Ling Chu nodded. The man felt happy. When the man pointed him to Ling Xiang, he didn't believe it at first. However, he later inquired with someone and found out that her fortune-telling was quite effective. The man was happy for a while, but felt uneasy in his heart. Miss Ling, my third brother, is he still alive? Ling Chu glanced at him and said in a deep voice, let's go, come with me to have a look. The man's heart sank when he saw that there was no smile on her face. Although I was mentally prepared, I still couldn't help but feel sad. Ling Chu led the people to follow the system's guidance and move forward. Ms. Guo glanced at their backs and snorted in her heart. Zhao Qiaovu is so big that it is impossible to find him. That is just playing tricks. Worried about their intrusion, Mrs. Guo asked Guo Guo and a dozen young boys to follow her. The Duke of Zhao's palace was really big, and the Guo family didn't like them, so it was impossible to prepare sedan chairs and chariots for them. Ling Chu could only walk on his legs. Following the system's guidance, I walked for nearly half an hour before stopping in a remote courtyard. Ms. Guo didn't take it seriously at first, and just asked the steward and others to watch them. Thinking about it, she still felt uneasy, so she hurried over in a sedan chair. Seeing Ling Chu stop in front of the courtyard, Guo's heart tightened. Subconsciously, I want to curse when I open my mouth. The madam, who was also worried and followed her, gave her a dissatisfied look and said to Ling Chu first, Miss Ling, can you take a moment to speak? Ling Chu's lips curled up, and he took the lead to walk a certain distance before stopping and looking at the madam quietly. Mrs. Tai's face was grave, and she looked at Ling Chu with eyes like sharp knives. Miss Ling, these things today have nothing to do with you, so why do you have to get involved? Ling Chu said softly, Madam, I came today just to get back my concubinage documents. Mrs. Guo was furious in her heart. This is not up to you. Your mother accepted the gift from our Duke of Zhao and personally promised us to take you as our concubine. Ling Chu was not annoyed, but instead took out the IOU for the usury money. The censor should be very interested in this thing. If the things in the dry well are dug out, Dali Temple will not have to worry about running out of work. Guo's eyes were spitting fire. How dare you threaten us? Mrs. Tai frowned. Unexpectedly, her daughter-in-law could not see the formality clearly at this moment, so she interrupted her directly. Ms. Guo, give the concubinage document to Miss Ling. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 245. Mrs. Tai asked Guo to return the concubine documents to Ling Chu. But the Guo family was angry that Ling Chu exposed Zhao Jingming's keeping of minor officials, so he took her as his concubine just to tease her. How can I be willing to return the documents, Mom? The documents have been signed, and the bride price dong has also been accepted. How can you? Ling Chu glanced at them casually and said, since you haven't discussed it yet, you can talk slowly, I'm not in a hurry. After saying these words, Ling Chu turned around and left. Mrs. Guo glared at Mr. Guo with hatred. How long has it been, and you still worry about taking concubines? Don't you know that it is illegal to issue loan sharks privately? If she really brought this matter to the censor, his father would definitely be implicated tomorrow. Although Mrs. Tai feels sorry for her grandson, in her eyes, her grandson is still not as important as her son. The Ling mansion has been defeated. I don't believe she dares to go against our Duke Zhao's mansion. The wife looked disappointed and wanted to pry open Mr. Guo's head to see what was inside. What's she afraid of? Since she has established a female household and moved to Kintai Street alone, it means that she doesn't pay attention to the people in the Ling mansion at all. Even if you have to deal with those people in Ling mansion, she won't care. Furthermore, do you think I don't know what's in that well? Since she can find it here, it means she already knows. If she exposes those things, what do you think will happen to you? If it weren't for the fact that the Guo family had always been filial to her and gave birth to the eldest grandson of the Duke of Zhao, Mrs. Tai would really be too lazy to persuade her so earnestly. Guo pursed her lips and said nothing. She was really unwilling to let that Ling Chu go. Seeing that she still refused to take out the concubinage documents, the wife was so angry that her heart ached. However, in order not to injure her son, she could only hold back her anger and continue to persuade, Brother Ming hasn't married yet. If you take a concubine for him first, who is better, a noble girl is willing to marry him. Boom. The lady here is still trying to persuade Mrs. Guo. Ling Chu had already taken out a small hammer and smashed open the big lock on the courtyard door. The expressions of Mrs. Tai and Mr. Guo changed. Before they could speak, the man quickly opened the door and rushed in with the 3 men and 1 woman. Mrs. Tai didn't bother to try to persuade Mr. Guo anymore and hurried after her. Ling Chu ignored her and walked into the courtyard. This yard is not big and has been abandoned for I don't know how long. It is overgrown with weeds. Everyone who came in was surprised. They didn't expect that there was such a deserted and dilapidated place in the dignified Zhao Qiagong's mansion. Third brother, where are you? Lai Wanfan shouted in the yard while looking around. But there is no one in this yard at all. Ling Chu looked at it for a few times, then walked towards the courtyard wall. The lady who hurried over quickly shouted, Miss Ling, wait a minute. Seeing Ling Chu stop, Mrs. Guo hurriedly said to the maid next to Guo, hurry and get the things. Seeing that Mr. Guo didn't speak, the maid ran away quickly. Come back soon with the concubinage document. Mrs. Tai took it and handed it to Ling Chu, I've given it to you. Miss Ling should know what to say and what not to say, right? Ling Chu reached out and took it, looked at it carefully, and confirmed that it was the concubine taking document signed by Dong. Folded it in twos and put it in his sleeve pocket. Then he smiled and said, don't worry, madam, I won't say anything nonsense. Mrs. Tai's face softened, but Mr. Guo's face was angry. Lai Wanfan was already worried when he couldn't find his third brother. Now that he saw Ling Chu taking things from Zhao Qiagong's mansion, he was even more worried that she had been bribed by Zhao Qiagong's mansion. Miss Ling, you. Ling Chu gave him a calm look, made a secret gesture, and moved towards the dry well. She promised the madam not to talk nonsense, but she didn't say she wouldn't take action. The talisman paper that was originally pressed by the boulder was turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. In the dry well, 3 ghosts, 2 men and 1 woman, emerged. As soon as Lai Chunchan came out of the dry well, he saw the boy who beat him to death standing aside. I rushed towards him without thinking. Zhao Pingui originally felt that this abandoned yard was eerie, so he couldn't help but shrink his neck. Suddenly I felt a chill on my eyelids. Looked at the sky doubtfully, but found that it was not raining. As soon as he lowered his head, he found a man covered in blood rushing toward him. Zhao Pingui's pupils shrank. Isn't this the man he beat to death? There is a ghost. Zhao Pingui was so frightened that he ran away. But Lai Chunchan grabbed his neck. I died so miserably, please give me back my life. Zhao Pingui pried off the puppet soul's hands with both hands while shouting incoherently and in panic, it's none of my business, I'm not going to beat you to death. She is the wife of our princess. She ordered me to kill you with a stick. I was just following the order. There is always a wrongdoer and a debtor, so don't come to me. Ms. Guo was already feeling guilty. When she heard the boy yelling that there was a puppet, she looked around with an uneasy expression. Hearing what the boy shouted, his face changed drastically, and he was about to ask manager Zhao to drag him away. Suddenly he saw a man and a woman who he had ordered to be killed with a stick rushing towards him. "Madam, please give me back my life." Seeing the dead man seeking her life, Guo was frightened and angry, and subconsciously cursed, "You are so brave, you wretched maid, you broke my bracelet, and you deserve to die." The one who broke the bracelet was not a slave, but King Guo. Why didn't Madam believe it and insisted on ordering me to be killed with a stick? Just because you are the wife of the princess, you can kill people at will. Today, I must avenge myself. The female puppet rushed forward, grabbed Guo's hair and dragged her towards the dry well. Another handsome-looking man who was also covered in blood said nothing, but floated over, grabbed Guo's arm, and helped the female puppet drag her to the dry well. Ms. Guo looked horrified. She recognized that this puppet soul was tricked into the house by her son. Zhao Jingming thought that no one knew about his love for Sun Liang, but he couldn't hide it from his mother-in-law, Ms. Guo. In order to cut off Zhao Jingming's thoughts, Ms. Guo ordered her servant to kill Zhao Liang with a stick and throw him into a dry well while he was away from home. Mr. Guo screamed for help in fear, but no one dared to step forward. Seeing that Lai Chunchen's puppet pushed the boy down the dry well regardless of his struggle, Guo rolled his eyes and fainted. Ling Chu threw out the immobilization charm at the three puppet souls and said to Lai Wanfen, "Go down quickly and rescue the little guy." Lai Wanfen and the others do not have yin and yang eyes, and they did not see the puppet soul. Seeing that the boy seemed to have been pushed down the dry well, I felt very angry. I thought the boy was dead, but unexpectedly I heard him calling for help from the bottom of the well. The stewards and servants of Zhao Qiaobo gathered around the lady and ignored the servants' cry for help. Lai Wanfen and the others couldn't bear it and planned to go down the well to rescue the boy. However, what they didn't expect was that after rescuing the boy, they found 3 corpses at the bottom of the well. End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 246. Lai Wanfen and others found ropes from the house and went down the well to rescue the boy. Unexpectedly, I saw 3 corpses at the bottom of the well. Third brother, Lai Wanfen, was extremely sad when he saw a familiar corpse. The faces of those who came with him changed. They all stepped forward to help lift the body out with ropes. However, what they didn't expect was that they actually recognized the other 2 corpses. One of the men in a brown coat threw himself on the body of the handsome figure and cried in grief, "Liang wake up, how could you abandon Dad? Hong Ying, don't sleep, open your eyes and look at Mom. Mom has made your favorite meat buns, get up quickly and go home with Mom." Listening to these mournful cries, the 3 puppet souls couldn't help but burst into tears. Ling Chu sighed and waved them away. Since people cannot be resurrected, all she can do is help them expose Guo's crimes. "You, the Duke of Zhao, actually killed my son. I must repay the debt with your blood." Zhao Qiaobo secretly issued usury money, and his heart was rotten. "He killed my third brother. I will sue you to the government. Although my daughter is a maid, she is also a human being. It is unforgivable for the Duke of Zhao to disregard human life in such a careless manner." Ms. Tai's face was as dark as ink, and her heart became more and more dissatisfied with Mr. Guo. He signaled to the woman next to him to step forward and pinch her awake. When Mr. Guo woke up, he didn't see those puppet souls, and saw a bunch of maids and servants surrounding him, and he felt relieved. Hearing those cries, he looked impatient. They were not killed by us, Duke Zhao. Maybe they wanted to come to our house to steal things, but they accidentally fell into the well and died. Lai Wanfan and the others stared at her angrily. Mrs. Tai was afraid that Mrs. Guo would anger them again, so she apologized and said, "It is impossible to find out the truth now. In any case, the deceased is the most important person. I, the Duke of Zhao, are willing to pay 200 taels to each family so that you can take the body back and bury it alive." The man in a brown coat glared at the madam. "You killed my son, and you only want us to let you go for a mere 200 taels. Dream on. It's just a few humble lives? 200 taels is not enough. Do you still want to blackmail our Duke Zhao's mansion?" "Shut up," Mrs. Guo glared at Mrs. Guo. She was trying her best to comfort her, trying to suppress these murder cases. "It's just that my daughter-in-law doesn't help here, she's still holding her back." How could she not know that she was such an idiot? Ling Chu saw that Lai Wanfan and the others were only angry, so he had no choice but to remind him, "Report to the official." Lai Wanfan came back to his senses and hurriedly said to the man beside him, "Brother Zhou, please help me go to Dali Temple and report to the official." The man in a brown coat also said, "Can you please help me go to Sun Yushi's house and tell my brother that my son has been killed?" Mrs. Tai's face changed. She didn't expect that the man's son was actually a member of Sun Yushi's tribe. "Wait a minute, we'll discuss it if we have anything to say." Zhou Xing ignored him, turned around and ran away. Ms. Guo was furious and shouted at the servant, "What are you still doing in a daze? Stop them!" Butler Zhao and his boy rushed over fiercely to stop Zhou Xing. Without saying a word, Ling Chu summoned a shovel and a hammer and knocked them all over. Zhou Xing was overjoyed and rushed out of the house without looking back. Mrs. Tai glared at Ling Mansion angrily, "Miss Ling, didn't you promise that you wouldn't?" Ling Chu said softly, "Madam, I promised you not to talk nonsense, but I didn't say anything just now." The wife almost fell down in anger. She didn't say anything, but she did it. Ms. Guo hated her so much that she wanted others to do something to her, but she was also worried about the power of her big shovel and small hammer. The matter could no longer be suppressed, and the wife had no choice but to tell the boy, "Go and find the Duke at once." When Ling Chu saw the boy leaving quickly, he didn't stop him. She asked the guards to send the copied usury notes to the censor. At this time, Duke Zhaoguo was probably being questioned by the emperor. It would be strange for him to come back. Sure enough, a servant came back soon and reported, "Madam, it's not good, the Duke of the country was taken away by the royal guards." Mrs. Tai and Mrs. Guo were suddenly in panic. At this moment, Zhou Xing, who had left, returned. With him, in addition to the officials of Dali Temple, there were also Sun Yushi and his clan members. Hulalala followed by a large crowd of spectators. Cao Hungzin even brought a group of people from the 5 cities military and horse division. Mr. Guo's complexion changed drastically, and she wanted to use the power of Zhao Qiagong's government to suppress the matter. However, Sun Yushi was not afraid of her at all. Zhao Qiagong was brought to the palace by the royal guards to be held accountable by the emperor. Sun Yushi was already upright, not to mention that his people were killed by the Duke of Zhao, so how could he let go of the Guo family? Ms. Guo still wanted to make excuses and pushed the boy out to take the blame. Ling Chu didn't say anything, and just silently released the 3 puppet souls, 2 men and 1 woman. "There is a puppet." Guo yelled in fear, rolled her eyes, and fainted again. Although Mrs. Tai was annoyed with her, she saw that Sun Yushi asked the officials of Dali Temple to take her away. For the sake of the face of the Duke's palace, she could only stand up and said, "My daughter-in-law here is sick and her brain is not clear. I will ask the steward to talk to you. Let's go and ask him if you have any questions." The Mrs. Tai wanted to protect the Guo family. However, Sun Yushi's clan members disagreed. A woman took advantage of the situation, rushed forward and pinched Guo's people hard. Mr. Guo suddenly woke up from the pain and subconsciously slapped the woman. Sun Yushi's face suddenly turned dark. Immediately let the officials from Dali Temple come forward and take Guo away. Although the officials of Dali Temple did not want to offend Zhao Qiaovuo, there were still 3 corpses in front of everyone, so they had no choice but to take Guo away. Mrs. Tai was angry and anxious. When she saw Sun Yushi's people staring at her fiercely, she was afraid that they would beat her, so she didn't dare to stop her. In addition, he was worried about Duke Zhao, so he didn't want to pay much attention to Guo. Brothers and sisters Zhao Jingming and Zhao Huanyan rushed over, but they were powerless and could only watch as Guo was taken away. "You bitch, you are indeed a disaster star. You can conquer wherever you go, why don't you just die?" Zhao Huanyan couldn't vent, so she could only curse Ling Chu angrily. Ling Chu didn't bother to say anything and just hit her face with the hammer. Zhao Huanyan had no choice but to close her mouth in pain and glared at her fiercely. Zhao Jingming clenched his fists and looked gloomy. She was originally his fiancée. But it was not enough that she broke off his engagement, she also ruined his reputation. Now even his mother has been arrested by the officials of Dali Temple. His father was taken away by Jin Yiwei because of loan sharking. I don't know yet how the emperor will deal with them in the Duke Zhao's mansion. Zhao Jingming felt a fire in his heart, but there was nothing he could do. Ling Chu didn't even look at him, took back the hammer and walked away without looking back. From then on, she had nothing to do with him. End of chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 247. The marriage was cancelled and the concubinage documents were returned. Ling Chu was in a good mood after settling a matter on his mind. From now on, she can concentrate on making money, accumulating merit, and prolonging her life. It's not a problem to just go to the streets and set up stalls every day. It's fine when it's sunny, but when it's windy or rainy, you can't do anything. Ling Chu plans to buy a shop. I asked the dental shop and found out that I was lucky. There happened to be a tea shop owner who was old and wanted to sell the tea shop and return to his hometown to spend his old age. Ling Chu went to see the shop with Yasing and was quite satisfied with the shop. Although the location of the shop is not on U Street, it is not far away. It is on West Street, 3 streets away. Although the area of the shop is not as large as those on Imperial Street, the upper and lower floors are enough. The location is pretty good and the price is fair. It didn't take long for Ling Chu to buy the shop. After completing the transfer procedures, you still need to find a craftsman to decorate the inside of the shop. Ling Chu's house had no one in charge, so she simply left it to the guards to deal with the craftsman. The guard smiled bitterly in his heart. He was originally Ning Chui's secret guard, but because he showed his face in front of others, he was sent to guard Miss Ling. That's all. I didn't expect that one day he would be sent by Miss Ling to run errands for her. Although he cursed a few times in his heart, the guard did not dare to show it on his face. Thinking of the hammer that used to destroy the flower picker, his lower body still feels chilly. Ling Chu had no idea about the guard's inner slander. She ordered the guard to find the craftsman, and she was quite satisfied when she saw his respectful and enthusiastic attitude. While the shop was still being renovated, Ling Chu had been busy drawing talismans these past few days. Since you open a shop, you must have something to sell. The first floor of the shop mainly sells some talismans. Ling Chu painted a lot of peace talismans, partial wealth talismans, peach blossom talisman for promoting wealth, career talisman, wenchang talisman, fetal protection talisman, etc. These talismans are sold to living people. There are also some magic weapons that have been illuminated, but they are not many in number. Her energy is limited, so she has made few. She can only make more slowly when she has time later. Of course there are people who sell them to the dead, but not many. I am not in good health and my energy is limited. I will slowly add more in the future. In addition to the private room where she rested on the second floor, Ling Chu also reserved a room mainly for receiving the souls of the dead. That's right, in addition to doing business for living people, we also do business for dead people. In addition to saving money and using good medicine to support her little life, she also has to help those puppet souls fulfill their wishes and use the exchanged merit to extend her life. So the business of the dead is also indispensable. The shop has been decorated and a lot of talismans have been prepared. What troubles Ling Chu is that he still lacks shopkeepers and assistants. The things sold in her shop are different from ordinary shops, and the customers are also quite special. After all, she is also in the ghost business. So the shopkeepers and clerks we are looking for are not only courageous, but also have a strong character so that they will not be affected by those puppet spirits. Ling Chu had been tired for a few days. After dinner, she saw that it was still early in the sky, so she simply sent the talisman paper to the shop first to see if the decoration was satisfactory. Setting up a household on your own means you are free. You don't have to worry about anyone being dissatisfied and trying to find fault with her when you go out at this time. Seeing that she was about to go out, the two guards followed her. One followed on horseback, and the other drove Ling Chu. When I got to the shop, I looked around upstairs and downstairs, and I was quite satisfied. The talisman he brought was placed in the display cabinet on the first floor, and Ling Chu was ready to go back. There is a curfew at night, and you can't just hang out and play outside at night like in modern times. As soon as she left the shop, she saw a young man in his 20s sitting against the outer wall of her shop, holding a bun in his hand and looking at the ghosts opposite him with a look of bitterness and hatred. "Hey, can you please stop following me? All my food has been used by you. I don't even remember how long it has been since I tasted the aroma of food." There were 7 or 8 ghosts standing opposite the young man. The gray-shirted old man looked like a scoundrel. "Although your things have been used by us, they are still intact, and there is not even a mouthful missing, but they have lost their taste." Another ink-shirted figure followed. "That's right, what's the big deal if there's no taste? It can still fill your stomach and you won't be hungry. Young man, you are the only one in the world who can see us. If we don't follow you, who else can we follow? Anyway, you are alone and don't even have anyone to talk to. With us by your side, you won't be alone. How pitiful it is to be alone." Listening to the chatter of these puppet souls, the young man was not happy, but instead became more distressed. Standing at the door, listening to their conversation, Ling Chu looked surprised. This man is just an ordinary person, but he actually has yin and yang eyes, can see ghosts, and can coexist peacefully with them. She was really surprised to see that this young man didn't seem to be affected by the puppet souls. His body was clean and not contaminated with their yin energy. Ling Chu couldn't help but walk over. Hearing the sound of footsteps, the young man turned his head and looked over. Seeing that it was a girl, the other person hurriedly withdrew his gaze and seemed to be planning to get up and leave. Ling Chu stood in front of him and asked curiously, "Aren't you afraid of them?" The young man was startled, and when he saw Ling Chu looking at the puppet souls, he couldn't help but widen his eyes. Girl, can you see them?" Perhaps he was so surprised that the young man stuttered when he spoke. Without waiting for Ling Chu to speak, he waved to her again. "Girl, please leave quickly. Don't be contaminated by their breath. It's not good for your health." He then said to those puppet souls, "The little girl is weak, unlike me who is strong and not afraid of you, so don't follow her." Those puppet souls didn't expect that Ling Chu could see them, and they were looking at her curiously. But they didn't dare to come over, not because of the young man's words. But they seemed to be vaguely afraid of the girl in front of them. This young man seems to be quite kind. Ling Chu couldn't help but look at him a few more times. "They have been following you, what do they want to do?" The young man was surprised to see her so calm, but he still said honestly, they didn't want to do anything, just because I can see them, so they always like to talk to me. Aren't you afraid of puppet souls? The young man shook his head. Don't be afraid, I have been able to see their existence since I was a child. It was these puppet spirits who always liked to talk to him and kept him from being clean. Also, he always enjoys his food, which makes everything he eats tasteless. Are you a foreigner? Are you coming to the capital to visit relatives or to find work? The young man frowned and said, I don't have anyone at home anymore, so I plan to come to the capital to have a try. I also thought that there is so much righteousness at the foot of the imperial city, so they don't dare to follow me anymore. He was annoyed by these ghosts, and it was too uncomfortable to eat without being able to taste anything. Originally I thought that with the emperor in the imperial city, the ghost would be afraid. If they all left, he would be able to eat normally in the future. Unexpectedly, when he arrived in the capital, those puppet souls were not affected and continued to follow him. Thanks to 20220914010245208, 123 Bayoma, 1598-550-2093, G. Kayulian, Crazy Heart 80, Sunyan Moix Y, Hangzhou Shangshang,Yway 0310, 2023050609471576, 20220923172247012123456256, Xianu Long Long, etc. Monthly ticket support from Book Friends. Thanks for the momentary negligence. 2021022120741050, sunny, dreamy smoked grass, falling snow. B. I am in the north. 201703181914308335, simple is fine. 2023-032-1629. CE, Chen, Yangliuan, Childlike Innocence Doll, UN1, Zheng. EC, Daoyo. EB, Cats and Mice Don't Even Play, Kinjar.ce, 20230219741685, Silent Blessing, Sankai. DB, Silver Star, Prose. BA, 854-729, CHLWCH, Free Walking Taurus, Exquisite Heart. AE, Road 92, Youth is Like a Dream 327, The Wind of the Blue Planet, Why Do We Get Old? 202209231722477012, XXC, China Fuse and other Book Friends recommendation votes. Thanks to Hungziu and the Book Friends who support Hungziu. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 248. The corner of Ling Chu's mouth twitched, thinking that when he came to the capital, he wouldn't be followed by puppet spirits. Doesn't this person know that people in the capital will die and become ghosts after death? The young man lowered his head in shame. It was not that he had never thought that there would be puppet souls in the capital, but he was really entangled by them and had no choice but to come to the capital and give it a try. Always thinking about what if it happens. You have been followed by them since you were a child, and nothing has happened to you. Well, there's nothing wrong with me, it's just that there are ghosts talking to me all the time, and I can't clear my ears also, they eat all the food, and I can't taste anything, which gives me a headache. Ling Chu was really unbearable and surprised. Generally, living people who are followed by puppet souls will be contaminated by their yin energy. It can range from bad luck to bad luck, but over a long period of time, you may even lose your life. She couldn't help but be envious of the fact that this man had nothing wrong with him. Although she can exorcise puppet spirits, her body is too weak to let them get close to her. So she always carries protective talismans and magic weapons with her. The young man smiled bitterly, there's nothing to envy about this. Others say my life is too tough. Others, you mean, there are other people who also know that you can see ghosts. When I was young, I was not sensible and could not hide things. People knew that I could see ghosts and they always disliked me and were even more taboo about interacting with me. This young man may have been holding it in for too long, and suddenly met someone who could see the ghost like him and didn't dislike it. Regardless of whether it was the first time I met Ling Chu, I couldn't help but pour out all the words in my heart. Even my parents thought I was unlucky. Later I realized that seeing ghosts was not a good thing, so I never mentioned it to anyone else. But the news got out anyway, and no one from anywhere in the country wanted to see me. After my parents left, everyone even said that I had killed them because of my stubbornness. They thought I was unlucky, and no one had any contact with me. Actually, I don't want to, and I don't want to see those puppet souls, but this is beyond my control. I was born to see them, and I don't know how to be like others. I also found many temples and Taoist temples, hoping that they would help me, but the monks and Taoists all said that my yin and yang eyes were born, and there was nothing they could do. He couldn't find a way, and he was also very lost. But he had no choice but to accept it. However, he still did not give up. Along the way to Beijing, whether he encountered Taoist temples or temples, he went in and tried them all. But unfortunately, I always come back disappointed. Ling Chu sympathized with this young man's experience. She had a similar experience when she was a child. Because she was born with yin and yang eyes, those puppet spirits always liked to haunt her. Some ghosts always like to pester her to talk when they see that she can see them. There are even more evil spirits who always appear out of nowhere to scare her. She was already weak, and when she was followed and frightened by those puppet spirits, she got sick every other day. However, she is luckier than him in that she has a very capable master. At the beginning, Master Xianyi saw that she was still young and had a weak body, so he used magic to seal her yin and yang eyes. Later, when she grew up and learned mysticism from him, and her courage developed, the master passed on the sealed spell to her and let her learn to control it on her own. If it were not for Xuanyi, she would probably be just like the young man in front of her. Perhaps, it would not be surprising to live a worse life than him, or even lose his life. After all, the people in Ling Mansion would not tolerate her staying with them. If you are willing, I can try to see if I can seal your yin and yang eyes. The young man originally looked disappointed, but when he heard this, he was immediately overjoyed. Young lady, you know how to seal the yin and yang eyes. Ling Chu took a look at the joy on his face. Although he couldn't bear to hurt him, he still confessed, I can seal my own yin and yang eyes, but to be honest, I have never sealed it for others. As for whether it can be successful, I'm not sure. If you are willing, I will try my best. Even though Ling Chu was not sure, the young man still said without hesitation, I want to believe you, please help me give it a try. He has no other choice, it doesn't hurt to give it a try, the worst he can do is to be disappointed again. Seeing that he agreed, Ling Chu nodded and said, okay, come in with me. Ling Chu turned around and walked back to the shop, and the young man followed him in. The two guards and the maid also walked back to the store silently. They couldn't help with this kind of thing, so they could only wait quietly aside. After entering the store, Ling Chu started to take action. However, I don't know whether it's because the young man's yin-yang eyes are too special, or because she's not very good at mystical arts. The seal failed. Seeing Ling Chu's face looked disappointed. On the contrary, the young man may have been disappointed too many times, so he looked calm now. Even comforted her in return. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work, it's just that you can't taste the food, it's not a big deal. Ling Chu sighed, maybe I'm not good at learning, so I can't help you. However, maybe my master has a way, but, his old man is not in Kyoto now. Thinking of this man's destiny, Ling Chu's heart moved. Aren't you planning to come to Kyoto to find work? I happen to be short of people in my shop. Why don't you stay and be the shopkeeper for me? When my master comes to Beijing, I will ask him to help you seal the yin and yang eyes. The young man was excited. He really wanted to work in the capital, but he had been in the capital for more than 10 days and had not found any good work. He could only do some temporary work for others, moving and lifting. I didn't expect that pie would fall from the sky now. After being happy for a while, the young man hesitated again and said, "Girl, I am willing to hire me to do work. I am really grateful. It's just, to be honest with you girl, I have never been a shopkeeper, so I'm afraid I won't be able to do it. If you don't mind it, girl, I'll be your buddy. I can do all the moving, lifting, and cleaning work. Looks like an honest person. Has yin and yang eyes, can see ghosts, is courageous, and can fight back with life. This is exactly the person she wants to find as shopkeeper. It doesn't matter if you haven't been a shopkeeper before, you can learn to do it slowly. My shop is a necromancer shop. The things I sell are unusual. There are not many customers at the beginning, so you can get used to it slowly. And if you can see the puppet soul, you can help me. If you are willing to stay, in addition to a monthly salary, you will also have clothes, shoes, and socks for all seasons, and even food and accommodation can be provided in this small building." Before Ling Chu finished speaking, the young man was already overjoyed and nodded in agreement. Ever since he was a child, everyone thought he was unlucky because he could see ghosts. I never thought that one day, he would become a shopkeeper because of his yin and yang eyes and hard life. It seems that he came to Beijing at the right time after traveling all the way. The young man was happy, and Ling Chu was also satisfied. With a shopkeeper, her shop can be opened. Thanks to Kwana, Pen Yongfang. Recommended votes from book friends such as 202209101100372262, Qingshichuang Chuang, 641,417, 20230907495021, Sihide, Prose. BA, etc. Dear treasures, are you all on vacation? Is it right to keep it for 8 days? I also want to take a vacation. Not 8 days, not 6 days, not 4 days. Give me a break for 2 days, can you? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 249. Little Lu Gang, I have met my boss. Seeing that Ling Chu really wanted to hire him as the shopkeeper, the young man was overjoyed and even knelt down with a plop and kowtowed to her. Ling Chu twitched the corner of his mouth. This Lu Gang is really sincere. No need to be polite, get up quickly. Ling Chu took a piece of talisman and handed it to him. Although I can't seal your yin and yang eyes, this talisman can protect you, and the puppet souls will not dare to approach you easily in the future. You don't have to worry about them eating you again. Eaten. Really? That's great. Thank you, my boss. Thank you so much, my boss. Lu Gang almost cried with joy. He couldn't taste the food. It was so painful. He didn't expect that his new boss could help him solve the problem. Had he not been short of money, he would have been eager to buy a bun to taste it now. Ling Chu also knew that it was really painful not to be able to taste the taste. Prince Jing also had this experience and even made trouble in the palace because of it. Seeing that it was getting late and curfew was about to come, Ling Chu signed a contract with Lu Gang and settled him in a small building. Seeing that his clothes were ragged, he paid him a month's worth of money in advance so that he could buy 2 new pairs of clothes. When you are a shopkeeper, you still have to pay attention to your image. Although it is not required to dress up very well, at least it must be clean and tidy, and at least it must not offend the guests who come to the door. Outside, the puppet souls who originally followed Lu Gang had already disappeared. Ling Chu glanced around and paid no attention to them. Go back with the people. It is the first shop after all. Ling Chu chose a good day to hang up the plaque and open the business. However, because it was a death shop, the opening was relatively low-key and simple, and it was not publicized. On the first day of opening, even though he knew there wouldn't be many customers, Ling Chu still came over. He also inserted the hexagram flags used when setting up the stall at the door of the shop, and asked shopkeeper Lu to write down the prices of various talismans before Ling Chu sat in the private room aside. Seeing that no guests had come to the door yet, Ling Chu simply took out the cinnabar talisman paper and started making talismans again. He was only halfway through drawing the talisman when an arrogant voice came from the door. "Hey, De Yuan Lu, this is a newly opened shop, brothers, let's go and have a look." Although he heard footsteps coming, Ling Chu ignored them and continued to draw the talisman paper in his hand. Lu Geng was wiping the counter when he heard a movement. He looked up and saw a man walking in with 7 or 8 people. He hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. "If you need anything, you can come in and take a look." The visitor impatiently stretched out his hand and said, "Stop trying to trick me, and hurry up and bring me the banknote." Lu Geng was confused. "What kind of banknote?" "Stop grinding and chirping, you can't break the rules." Lu Geng was confused. When this group of people came in, they didn't buy anything. Instead, they asked for money and told him not to break the rules. It was really puzzling for him to understand. In the nearby shop, a clerk who heard the commotion and came to watch the excitement saw that he didn't understand anything. He shook his head and reminded him in a low voice, "This man's name is Lazy. He is a bully on this street. He comes here every month. The shop charges protection fees." Lu Geng frowned. "How much do they want to charge?" Before the guy opened his mouth, Lazy took the first step and stretched out a palm towards him and shook it. "Not much, 50 taels is enough." "50 taels is not much, why don't you go and grab it? Our shop just opened today and we haven't made a penny yet. Where can I give you money?" The waiter next to him glanced at Lu Geng sympathetically, thinking to himself where the fool was from. He was just robbing him. Lazy stood in the shop, looked around, and sneered, "You can afford to open such a big shop, how can you be short of money? Besides, I don't want much, 50 taels is the rule. From now on, with us covering your shop, no one will dare to come and make trouble, and you can do business in peace and quiet." "What's the rule? Isn't it the duty of the 5 city soldiers and horses division to patrol the streets? Why didn't Miss Ben know when the people were changed? Or are you people pretending to be the 5 city soldiers and horses division, here to defraud money?" Lazy was waiting for Lu Geng to bring him a banknote. When he suddenly heard this, he was immediately dissatisfied. Sun Sheng turned his head, a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes. The anger also dissipated. "Who is this girl?" Shopkeeper Lu frowned and glared at him. "This is the owner of our shop." Lazy said with a smile on his face, "It turns out to be the boss. I'm not cheating. It's the first time for a girl to open a shop. It's not surprising that she doesn't know the rules. But accepting this money is indeed the rule of this West Street. If you don't believe me, girl, you can go out and ask around. I am not lying to you." Ling Chu naturally wouldn't inquire, they are just a group of hooligans who collect protection fees in the name of protection. "This is my shop, it's not your turn to tell me the rules. If you don't have any money, get out." As soon as Ling Chu finished speaking, Lazy's face immediately turned cold. Although this girl is beautiful and fascinates him, he cannot let her break the rules. Who can afford to open such a big shop and say that he has no money? You have to pay this money whether you pay it or not. You can't break the rules of West Street at will. The gangsters behind Lazy also started shouting, "Hurry up and get the banknotes, otherwise don't blame us for being rude." Ling Chu was unmoved. "Why are you so rude and destroying our shop?" Those hooligans did not deny it, but laughed arrogantly, "It's good if you know. If you know the truth, please give me the money quickly. Ling Chu's eyebrows were cold and his voice was light. I'm sorry, I don't want to meet you today. Those ruffians all stared angrily, feeling that she has lost face in front of everyone. Lazy is even more sullen. If he doesn't convince this girl today, how can he continue to collect protection fees on this street in the future? He turned his head sideways and winked at the people he brought with him, signaling them to take action. The 7 or 8 ruffians rolled up their sleeves and were ready to attack. Ling Chu summoned the big shovel and small hammer first. The shop has only been opened for the first day, so we can't destroy it. The little hammer and the big shovel decided to work together. First, he rushed towards the leading scoundrel and knocked him over with the hammer, while he was writhing in pain on the ground holding his legs. The big shovel rushed over, scooped him up, and swung him out of the store. Lazy couldn't help but fly a few feet away, and then hit the ground hard. Having dealt with him, Little Hammer immediately rushed towards the stunned gangsters. Soon, Lazy and the people he brought were all lying outside holding their legs and howling miserably. Everyone on West Main Street was gloating about their misfortune. It was a great pleasure that someone finally dealt with these hateful gangsters. Lazy was originally full of confidence. In the past, those shops that were unwilling to pay money would obediently pay them as long as they smashed them once. This trick has always been invincible and has never failed. Unexpectedly, this time he kicked an iron plate. Thanks to book friend 120908203111929 for the reward of 100 starting coins. Thanks to 149268813, Purple Aftertaste, Sunyen Moitxe, Xiao Ziohanyu, 17011119112019012020003131920547267, XQYBC, Lonely Fish, Yayayao, Meng Fanbing, Kalinglan and other book friends for their monthly ticket support. Thanks to Kwana, 2017031819143085, Purple Aftertaste, 202110221220741050, Light Gauze Makeup, The Wind of the Blue Planet, UN1. Silently Blessing, Cats and Mice Don't Play, Why Do They Grow Old, CHLWCH, 0808292220201007, 854-729, 0808292220201007, Panax Noto Ginseng. DB, 201710021517052006, Sages Are Also Idle, 20230907495021, Colorful Life, 140212184021428 and other books recommended votes from friends. Thanks to Hungzio and Hungzio Book Friends for their support. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 250. Lazy and the others were all thrown out of the shop, surrounded by people who were pointing at them. Especially the shopkeepers and bosses on West Street hate them deeply. These gangsters come to their shop every month to collect protection fees. The amount of money collected depends on the size of each shop and the quality of business. Although everyone was dissatisfied with this, no one dared to resist. All because if there is a shop that doesn't give money, they will come to the shop every day to make trouble, and those customers will not dare to go in and buy things. In order to prevent them from affecting business, everyone had no choice but to pay. Lazy was angry and resentful. He didn't expect that the girl was very beautiful, but he would be so ruthless. Hurriedly, he whispered a few instructions to a gangster beside him. The ruffian nodded repeatedly, got up, and ran away. After beating everyone away, Ling Chu turned around and went back to his private room, continuing to draw talisman paper and paying no attention to the people outside. Unexpectedly, before she finished drawing a single talisman, another group of people burst into the store with a loud cheer. "Boss Yao, This is the shop. This familiar voice came into the private room, and Ling Chu frowned slightly. But the pen in my hand did not stop. If you stop drawing in the middle of drawing, the talisman will be useless. Lu Gang frowned. He didn't expect that the gangsters would dare to come and even bring more people with them after they had been beaten away. Yao Dele squinted at shopkeeper Lu. Where's your boss? Let her come out. Let me see if she has 3 heads and 6 arms and dares to break the rules of our West Street. Seeing that they were coming with bad intentions, Lu Gang hurriedly stepped forward to stop them. Our boss is not here. A ruffian with a row-headed head and rat-like eyes, looking around suddenly pointed at Yajian and interrupted him loudly. That girl is inside. Yao Dele turned around and looked at the elegant room, although he couldn't clearly see the people inside. But he had already heard from his subordinates that the girl looked like a fairy, which made him feel itchy. Wave your hand at the people around you and said, drag them out. Lu Gang quickly stood in front of the private room. You can't barge in. Before he finished speaking, the gangsters rushed forward and pushed him aside. Ling Chu was distracted by the noisy sound, and his men did not stop moving. He only said quietly, throw them out, don't damage the things in the store. Yes, girl. The 2 guards ducked. Leaped down from the beam and stepped forward quickly. Seeing the guards who suddenly appeared, Yao Dele glared at Lazy angrily. He didn't expect that there were guards in the store. When this idiot sent someone to report the news, he didn't even tell him. He didn't have time to curse, so he could only yell at his subordinates, what are you doing standing still? Why don't you take action quickly? There are only 2 guards, but he has brought more than a dozen people. I don't believe that he can't defeat them. Even though they knew that the guards had martial arts skills, due to the large number of people, the gangsters rushed over without fear. The 2 guards, without blinking an eye, grabbed the gangsters one by one and threw them outside. If they weren't worried about damaging the things in the shop, the 2 guards wouldn't have done it so easily. Yao Dele stood up from the ground with a grin on his face. Unexpectedly, he brought more than a dozen people with him, but he couldn't defeat them all. Seeing the gangster lying next to him about to get up, he quickly winked at him. The ruffian was stunned for a moment, then lay back down, motionless. The 2 men next to him also closed their eyes and lay back on the ground. Yao Dele winked at Lazy again. Lazy immediately shouted loudly, come quickly, we'll beat him to death. There is no justice. The emperor dares to take human life under his feet. There is no justice in heaven. It's a dead man, call the officer quickly, we can't let the perpetrator escape. A few hooligans shouted at the top of their lungs, and their voices suddenly spread far and wide. Hearing that someone had died, people on West Street gathered around him. Soon Ling Chu's shop was crowded with people. They all pointed at Lazy and the 3 people lying on the ground and talked loudly. The 2 guards frowned and looked at each other, regretting that they had acted too lightly just now. I was about to step forward and give him another beating. But he saw the deputy commander of the Zikan Army and Horses Division rushing over with a group of people on horseback. Deputy Commander Gao Chong was riding on horseback. He glanced at the crowd with a dark face and waved at the people behind him, if you dare to gather a crowd to fight and cause trouble in broad daylight, take them away. Seeing the person coming, Yao Dele felt happy and quickly winked at Lazy. Lazy pinched his own thigh and cried to the deputy commander, you are wronged, sir, we didn't fight. We just wanted to go into Na Daywan building to buy something. But the shopkeeper and owner of the store thought that we were of low status and could not afford to pay. They beat us out without telling us, and let the guards beat 3 of us to death. Please let the adults make the decision for the younger ones. Gao Chong glanced at Yao Dele's face and saw him nodding slightly to him. Turning his head and looking at the shop next to him, he said coldly, it's unreasonable. How dare people die under the emperor's feet? Someone is coming and takes the owner and shopkeeper of Daywan Tower away and sends them to Dali Temple. The two guards frowned and looked at the commander. Seeing that he was so indiscriminate, they wanted to arrest people, and they were about to mention Ning Chui's name. He saw Ling Chu slowly walking out of the shop. "Who said my guard killed someone?" Lazy opened his mouth and shouted, "You are the one who ordered the guards to beat him to death." As Ling Chu walked down the steps, he asked casually, "Where are the dead people?" The crowd of onlookers stepped aside, revealing 3 corpses lying on the ground. Seeing that she was looking down at her, Lazy and a few people beside her started crying and howling, Lazy, you died so miserably. Zhang Shiniu, you died so tragically, how will your parents and children live? Lu Xiaodan, I was sorry for you and failed to protect you, so you lost your life at such a young age. Ling Chu glanced at them coldly and saw that they were crying. Without saying a word, he waved his hand and released a few of the puppet souls he usually kept. The 3 people lying on the ground pretending to be dead were secretly thinking about how much money Yao Dele would reward them after the incident was completed. But suddenly I felt a chill around me. GGG, although this person is not very clean, but fortunately his flesh and blood are still warm and should taste good. He, I haven't tasted the blood of a living person for a long time. I didn't expect that I would be lucky today. Gozi and Zhang Shiniu closed their eyes tightly, but trembled. I cursed secretly in my heart, the one who steps on the horse. What this person said made their hearts tremble. This skin is okay, but there is a lot of meat on the belly. This is mine, and you are not allowed to eat from me. Lu Xiaodan had goosebumps all over his body. How could he feel a pair of cold hands greedily stroking the flesh on his body? I really couldn't hold it back and secretly opened my eyes. Just in time, he saw a head with disheveled hair and a green face and fangs biting his neck. There is a puppet. Lu Xiaodan blurted out a sound of panic, straightened his body, and sat up directly. The little girl who was watching nearby shivered when she saw the dead person come back to life, and screamed in panic, "It's a fake corpse." Thank you all for not forgetting to subscribe, reward and vote during the holidays. Thanks for having you. I wish you all to become rich, thin, and beautiful as soon as possible.